This is TWiT.
All right, your word of the week this week is certiorari.
Certiorari.
Certiorari. Certiorari. What is certiorari?
Certiorari is when the Supreme Court says it will take a case.
Or not.
You ask it to take a case because they don't have to take any case.
Right. People might think, I learned this myself, the Supreme Court, you can appeal to the Supreme Court. You can, but they can say no. You have no right of appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. They get to choose what cases, and that's called certiorari.
Certiorari, yeah, certiorari, yep, it is. I learned this in journalism school. I had to take a media law class, and this was, we talked about petitioning, and they take cases that they want to rule on, essentially, right? They want to either affirm the lower court ruling and say yes, this is settled law, and settle it instead of it being kind of like, well, this one says this and this one says that, or they want to overturn it because they think it was a bad decision, and so they tactically, I forget how many justices need to say yes to grant four. Is it? Yeah, so not a majority, just enough to be almost a majority to take the case, and then they go from there.
Weird rotating docket situation where the appeals come in, they get a stack of them. I'm sure that's a pretty big stack. And then they dole it out to the clerks, because the justices don't even look at them. They dole them out to the clerks. The clerks write up whether they think it should be granted or not. The justices look at them. It takes 4 justices. I think they rotate which justices have to, because it's a big stack. And you don't want, you got things to do, places to go. You're a Supreme Court justice. You got to get the robes. You don't want to. So
yeah,
so they figured
overturn all that.
And this is being October, is when all the certiorari's go out. And Apple has lost its certiorari. It's a long way to certiorari, I think.
It's shortened usually to a writ of cert.
Cert. They say cert. Now you know why they grant a writ. Yeah.
They're looking for the Supreme Court to grant a writ of cert.
And
it's Latin. People love Latin.
I was about to say I'm not regretting taking Latin as my elective foreign language course, and because now I know how to pronounce things, and I'm covering Apple.
I took Latin. I took many years of Latin. I still don't know how to say. I think in Latin it would be certiorari. Certiorari. The problem is not Latin. The problem is American or whatever, English. Yeah, I can say it in Latin. The Supreme Court on Monday decided to not grant cert to Apple's bid to cancel 3 Qualcomm smartphone patents. There's actually a good reason for it. They've already settled, in effect, by saying, yeah, we'll pay you the license fees. Okay, fine, Qualcomm. Apple, even though they've negotiated a settlement in 2017 to pay the fee, or 2019, billions of dollars in patent fees, they decided, it'd be nice if we could just get the Supreme Court to overturn this patent. Just then we would, for future reference. Patents were upheld. They appealed to the patent specialist U.S. Court of Appeals in the Federal Circuit, which said in a 2-to-1 ruling. What's the Latin?
What's the legal term for?
It's again more Latin.
They dismissed the case last year for a lack of standing, saying, "Well, you guys already settled this, so
yeah.
Why? I don't understand. Why are you bothering us with this stuff? We got stuff to do here." And the Supreme Court agreed. Just to be clear, and I know we just described it, but the key thing so many news reports are like Supreme Court denies or whatever, and it's like that. It really is very much like you throw it in the black hole, and a small number of things come back out, and if yours doesn't come back out, that's just it. They just say pass, and there's no ruling one way or another. They don't want to touch it. They're just going to leave it where it is. It's a pass.
Although we're joking about Latin. There was funnily enough, yesterday, an amicus brief filed by The Onion.
Funnily enough, yes.
trying to get a different case, obviously, put into having its cert granted. And it is the most hilarious amicus brief you'll ever read.
It's very funny.
And it spends a lot of time talking about how lawyers love Latin, which I thought was really great.
And what do they call the Supreme Court? They had a funny name for them. The Latin wonks, I think they call them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually an important case because it was about whether you could parody local police on Facebook The police didn't like it, and eventually they were told they were countersued by the guy who posted the thing, and eventually he was told, qualified immunity protects the police against you, and that's what really this is about, is qualified immunity. And The Onion, which of course is a parody thing, simply the whole issue was, do you have to label it parody? And The Onion says no. Parody functions by tricking people into thinking it's real. Tu stultus est. You are dumb.
Yep.
These 3 Latin words have been The Onion's motto and guiding light since it was founded in 1988. Tu stultus est. That's good to know. That's good to know.
That's some good Latin.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah. The Onion knows the federal judiciary is staffed entirely by total Latin dorks. They quote Catullus in the original Latin in chambers. They sweetly whisper "stare decisis" into their spouse's ear. They mutter "cui bono" under their breath while picking up after their neighbors' dogs.
It's so because it's a legal document, this cost them $80,000.
Oh, but well worth it. You're gonna get
every penny.
You're gonna get. Yeah, you're gonna.
I don't know. I think they may have paid the lawyer may have paid them to do it. It's like this has got to be the most fun brief that lawyer has ever put together.
Yes. With
we're all talking about it,
and it's good. It makes very good arguments, but there are also lots of jokes.
It's very funny
because it's The Onion.
But it really begs the question: does the Supreme Court have a sense of humor? They may be Latin dorks.
There are moments in Supreme Court's rulings where they can make jokes, although it's probably their clerks making the jokes in the Supreme. They're like, forget about it, it's fine, just put it in there. It's a footnote. People will love it. Let's just move on. But yeah, I think the problem here is that the Supreme Court probably won't take this case, and given the composition of the current Supreme Court, if they do take this case, they will probably take it so that they can say this is not a First Amendment right, and the police can do what they want.
Qualified immunity. Yep.
So yeah.
In the amicus brief, they mention the fact that in 2012 The Onion proclaimed Kim Jong-un as the sexiest man alive, and that China's state-run news agency republished the story as true alongside a slideshow of the dictator himself in all his glory. In fact, they have quite a few cases of clueless people picking up Onion stories, and
there's a long line of them. I mean,
it's a long line.
There's been so many examples where someone saw it go by, and somehow usually what happens, they retweet it, and someone in another country that doesn't know what The Onion is, that goes haywire with it. Yeah.
A reasonable reader does not need a disclaimer to know that parody is the basis of this brief. That you shouldn't have to. There it is. Update. He is the sexiest man alive. Look at those cheeks. Don't you want to just go, oh, you.
If I, their missiles aren't that great, but if I were on the West Coast, like the coast closer to North Korea, I wouldn't say,
Good point. Not really laughing at her in Japan these days. I agree.
Yes.
Certiorari.
Certiorari. Yep.
It's a long way to certiorari. Actually, for Apple it was, but no. They gained nothing.
Nice try.